grocery stores closed tomorrow, most homes would run out of food in 3 days, but yours doesn't have to. Right now, 15 specific grocery items are quietly disappearing from shelves, and once they're gone, they're not coming back at the same price. Today, I'm revealing 15 grocery foods to stockpile before they are gone, and what exactly to grab before next month. Ready? Let's go. Number 15. Canned tomatoes. California grows about 95% of all processing tomatoes in the United States. And right now, that region is staring down the worst water allocation crisis in recorded history. Water restrictions this year are not temporary adjustments. They are permanent structural changes. One farmer in the Central Valley had his water allocation cut by 60%. He reduced his planting by half. Now multiply that across thousands of farms. A procurement manager for a major grocery chain confirmed their tomato product orders are being filled at just 67%. That means for every 100 cans ordered, 67 show up. And here's the kicker. The tariffs on imported Mexican tomatoes make the backup supply economically unviable for most retailers. 6 months ago, a can was 99 cents. Last week, the same brand hit $1.49. That's a 50% increase, and it's still moving. I keep a minimum of 100 cans at all times. Diced, crushed, sauce, and paste. Every shopping trip, 10 more cans. Spread it across stores. Stay reasonable. Stay consistent. Number 14. Canned sardines and mackerel. 3 years ago, a quality tin of sardines in olive oil ran around $2. Today, that exact same product from the same brands costs $4 or more at most retailers. That is a 100% price increase in 3 years, and availability has become genuinely inconsistent. Multiple major international fisheries have formally reduced sardine and mackerel catch quotas in direct response to declining fish populations and shifting ocean temperatures. When quotas fall, global supply contracts. When supply contracts and demand holds flat, prices rise and availability becomes unpredictable. That cycle is now fully underway, and the ocean conditions behind it are not reversing on any timeline that matters for your pantry. Here's what they don't tell you. A single can delivers high-quality protein, significant dietary fat, and omega-3 fatty acids at concentrations that exceed many fish oil supplements. Research consistently links omega-3 deficiency, measurable over weeks, not months, to declines in focus, mood stability, and immune function. Go for the olive oil-packed versions. Most cans carry a shelf life of 3 to 5 years. Buy ahead now, while it's still straightforward to find. Number 13. Cooking oil. This one hits your wallet every single week, and most people still haven't adjusted their buying behavior. Ukraine was historically one of the largest global exporters of sunflower oil. That supply has been severely disrupted. Palm oil faces output restrictions in key producing countries. Soybean oil prices climbed alongside broader grain cost increases. These are not temporary disruptions. They are structural shifts working through every layer of the global supply chain. Here's what most people skip past until it matters. Dietary fat is not optional. The body requires it to absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. It needs it for hormone production and sustain neurological function. Most core pantry staples, rice, beans, grains, canned vegetables, contain almost no fat. A single tablespoon of cooking oil delivers around 120 calories of pure fat. And here's what makes this brilliant. A full gallon of vegetable oil contains roughly 30,000 calories. At today's prices, that is less than half a cent per calorie. Most purpose-built emergency food products cost 5 to 10 times that per calorie. Store it sealed, cool, and dark. Rotate every 2 months. Keep 12 gallons working at any time. Number 12. Pasta. This is a perfect storm hiding in plain sight. It starts with durum wheat, the specific variety used to make quality pasta. The majority comes from North Dakota and Montana. Last year, severe drought dropped yield significantly. The wheat that did grow had lower protein content, which means lower quality pasta, which means manufacturers need more wheat to produce the same product. Then, transportation. One trucking company owner reported his fuel costs are up 42%. Then, packaging. Cardboard and adhesive shortages have caused production lines to slow because there aren't enough boxes. 18 months ago, a pound of name brand pasta was about $1.29. Now it's consistently over $2. Some stores are pushing $2.50. That is nearly double. So every time you buy pasta at today's prices, you are saving against tomorrow's even higher prices. I keep £100 in my stockpile. Long pasta like spaghetti and fettuccine, short pasta like penne and rigatoni, small pasta like orzo. Different shapes work better for different meals and sauces. It keeps morale alive when eating from your stockpile starts to feel repetitive. Number 11. Bulk yeast. Most people have never stopped to ask where yeast actually comes from, or how few places make it. Yeast production in North America is concentrated in a small number of highly specialized facilities. It is not a product you scale up overnight. Yeast is a living organism. It requires controlled fermentation environments, specific equipment, and precise temperature management through every stage of production and distribution. Here's what happened. When home baking surged in 2020, manufacturers scaled up. When demand cooled, they scaled back down. But the baking habit didn't fully disappear. Baseline demand today is meaningfully higher than it was in 2019. Production capacity has largely reverted to pre-2020 levels. The numbers don't line up. Multiple grocery procurement managers have described yeast as being placed on internal watch lists, products they're genuinely uncertain about keeping consistently in stock. Standard yeast packets kept at room temperature stay viable for roughly 6 months. But here's what makes this brilliant. Vacuum-sealed commercial yeast in 1-pound blocks stored in a freezer holds full viability for 5 years or longer. Each block is the functional equivalent of more than 60 individual 3-packet strips. Without viable yeast, your ability to bake bread from scratch, just flour, water, salt, and yeast, simply disappears. And unlike most items on this list, there is no real substitute. Number 10. White rice. India, the world's largest rice exporter, banned exports of several rice varieties to protect domestic food security. That removed millions of tons from global markets instantly. Other countries tried to fill the gap. Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, but they cannot produce enough to replace India's exports. Meanwhile, American rice production is under its own pressure. Water shortages in California and Arkansas, 2 major rice-growing states, increased costs for fertilizer and fuel. A rice farmer in Arkansas reported his costs are up 38% compared to 3 years ago, but the price he receives hasn't increased proportionally. A 20-pound bag that was $15 a year ago is now over $22 in many stores. Here's what separates this from other staples. Store it right and it outlasts everything else in your pantry. Seal it in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Keep it cool and dark, and white rice lasts 30 years or more. Toss in a few dried bay leaves as a natural bouncer that keeps your stash bug-free for years. Buy a bag or 2 every shopping trip. Prices are not going down. Number 9. Peanut butter. This one surprised me because peanut butter seems so basic and American. How could there be a shortage? Here's what's actually happening. Peanut production in the US is concentrated in a handful of states. Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Texas grow the vast majority. These regions have been hit with increasingly unpredictable weather. Last year, excessive rain during harvest season in Georgia damaged a significant portion of the crop. Peanuts that sit in wet fields develop aflatoxin, a toxic mold. Those peanuts cannot be used for food production. They have to be destroyed. Here's what they don't tell you. Peanuts are also used for peanut oil, which is in high demand. When peanut oil prices run high, more peanuts get diverted to oil production instead of being made into peanut butter. A store manager confirmed peanut butter is on allocation from several major brands. They're not getting their full orders. 2 tablespoons pack about 200 calories and 8 grams of protein. It requires no refrigeration even after opening. It lasts a year or more, often 2. In a power outage, peanut butter becomes your go-to food. No cooking required, high energy, familiar taste. I keep 40 pounds in my stockpile, buy extra jars every shopping trip. If you're finding this useful, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Done? Let's keep going. Number 8. Bulk bouillon cubes. It doesn't look like much. A cube the size of a sugar cube weighs almost nothing costs almost nothing per unit. Most people see it and think, seasoning, a nice extra, not essential. That framing is the mistake. 1 cube produces roughly 1 cup of seasoned broth for about 5 cents. Canned broth costs around $2 per can for the same volume. That is 40 times the cost for an identical result. But the economics aren't even the main point. The main point is what bouillon does to everything else you have stored. Plain white rice cooked in bouillon broth is a completely different eating experience from plain white rice cooked in water. Canned beans simmered with bouillon and a small amount of fat become an actual meal. Canned vegetables and bouillon broth become soup. This single ingredient functions as a flavor multiplier across your entire pantry. And here's what makes this brilliant. There's a well-documented psychological effect that builds during extended periods of restricted eating. It's not hunger, it's monotony. It quietly wears down the mood of everyone in a household before anyone names what's happening. 800 cubes, 400 chicken, 400 beef, costs around $60 total. That is 800 servings of broth at roughly 7 cents each. The cost-to-utility ratio is almost impossible to match, and the bulk format is increasingly difficult to find. Warehouse stores that carried it reliably are now showing empty shelves with no restock dates posted. When bulk bouillon is available, buy more than you plan to. Number 7. Dried beans. They look boring in a bag. In a real emergency, these are muscle food. Loaded with protein, fiber, and iron, dried beans are shelf-stable for years, and they last because they're dried down to very low moisture. No water means bacteria can't get started, and there's little fat to go rancid. But here's where the supply picture gets serious. North Dakota, which grows a huge percentage of US beans, had serious drought conditions during the last growing season. Lower yields mean less supply hitting the market, and the processing bottleneck makes it worse. There are only so many canning facilities, and they're running at maximum capacity across all product categories. When one product line has issues, it ripples through everything, because they all compete for the same lines. Then there's the aluminum can shortage affecting all canned goods. The result? A procurement specialist confirmed orders for canned beans are being filled at about 70%. For every 10 cases ordered, 7 show up. Don't trust the store bag for long-term storage. Move dried beans into mylar with oxygen absorbers or airtight jars. Keep them cool, dark, and off the floor. Ancient beans can be stubborn and require longer cooking, but they never lose their nutritional value. Number 6. Coffee. I know some of you are thinking, coffee isn't essential. Let me tell you, in a high-stress situation, the psychological value of a normal cup of coffee is absolutely massive. Beyond that, coffee is facing some of the most serious production challenges of anything on this list. Brazil, which produces about 1/3 of the world's coffee, experienced devastating frosts that destroyed huge portions of the crop. Frost in coffee-growing regions is rare, but it's happening more frequently. Vietnam, the second largest producer, has had drought issues affecting yields. Colombia has dealt with excessive rain and labor strikes. All of this adds up to reduced global production at a time when demand continues to increase. In the last 18 months, wholesale coffee prices increased over 70%. A standard 12-ounce bag that was $8 a year ago is now $11. Some premium brands are pushing $15. Here's the kicker. In a crisis, starting your day with a normal cup of coffee provides psychological stability. It is a small piece of normalcy when everything else is chaos. Store whole beans in airtight containers in a cool, dark place. For long-term, vacuum seal or use mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. The prices aren't coming back down. Number 5. Raw honey. This is the only item on this list that will never expire. Not in the marketing sense, in the literal chemical sense. Honey has a water activity level too low to allow microbial growth. Its pH is acidic enough to inhibit bacteria, and it naturally produces trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide through enzymatic activity, which provides additional antimicrobial protection. Archaeologists have recovered honey from ancient Egyptian tombs estimated at over 3,000 years old. When tested, it was still chemically intact, still edible. 3,000 years. Nothing else in your pantry is in the same category. And while it's true that improperly stored honey can crystallize, that is a reversible quality change, not spoilage. The underlying chemistry that prevents decay remains intact. But here's what most people haven't noticed yet. The format that actually makes sense for storage, large multi-pound containers, 5-pound jugs, is becoming difficult to find at retail. Domestic bee colony collapse continues to reduce the productivity of American honeybee populations. At the same time, import scrutiny on international honey has increased sharply due to documented adulteration, diluting honey with corn syrup and relabeling it as pure. Both the domestic pipeline and the import channel are contracting simultaneously. Buy large format when you find it. The shelf life is effectively unlimited, and there is no rational downside to buying more than you think you need. Number 4. Powdered milk. Nothing humbles a breakfast craving like a blackout and an empty milk carton. Powdered milk production requires significant processing capacity and energy. And as energy costs have increased, margins have gotten so thin that some manufacturers have reduced production entirely. But here's the bigger issue that nobody covers. There is increasing global demand for powdered milk, particularly from Asia and Africa, pulling supply away from the US domestic market. A lot of people skip powdered milk because they think it tastes bad. And yeah, if you're drinking it straight, reconstituted powdered milk doesn't taste quite like fresh milk. But in cooking and baking, you absolutely cannot tell the difference. Use it in pancakes, muffins, cakes, creamy soups. It works perfectly. Don't leave it in the cardboard box. Cardboard absorbs moisture and air gets in. Your powdered milk will clump and go bad within months. Transfer it immediately to mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or food-grade buckets with tight lids. Here's what makes this brilliant. Stored properly, powdered milk lasts 15 to 20 years. Divide your stash into small jars so the main supply stays sealed. 50 pounds in your stockpile gives you hundreds of meals worth of dairy nutrition, and it costs about $150. Number 3. Rolled oats. Oat production is concentrated in specific regions. Canada grows a massive percentage of the world's oats. The US grows the rest, primarily in the upper Midwest. Both regions have experienced weather issues that crushed yields, drought in some areas, excessive rain in others. Either one damages crops. But here's the supply problem that's accelerating the shortage. Oat milk has become incredibly popular in the last few years, pulling a significant portion of oat production away from traditional food products. Oat processing facilities have also struggled with equipment issues and labor shortages, reducing their capacity to turn harvested oats into the rolled oats you buy at the store. The result? A large container of rolled oats that was $4 is now $6.50 or more, and the oat sections are thinning out. Here's why this matters beyond the shelf life. Oats are incredibly versatile. Oatmeal for breakfast, obviously, but also granola, baking, oat flour if you grind them, thickening for soups. Nutritionally, they're fantastic. High fiber, decent protein, and they keep you full for hours. In a survival situation, that sustained energy is crucial. For long-term storage, put them in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or in food-grade buckets. Stored that way, oats last 10 years or more. Number 2. Coconut oil. While standard cooking oils face the rotation and rancidity challenge, coconut oil plays by different rules entirely, and right now, that makes it one of the smartest pantry additions you can make. Its higher saturated fat content makes it chemically stable for 2 to 3 years or more at room temperature with almost no rotation discipline required. It won't go rancid, sitting in a cool dark cabinet the way vegetable or canola oil will. One minute it's frying eggs, the next it's replacing butter in baking, and somehow it still makes plain rice taste like an actual meal. What makes it a serious stockpile staple is that stability combined with its caloric density. Every tablespoon delivers around 120 calories of pure fat. The fat your body needs to absorb vitamins, produce hormones, and sustain neurological function. A jar stored properly is genuine insurance. Keep the big jar untouched in a dark cupboard and run a small counter jar for daily use. When stored well, coconut oil commonly lasts 2 to 5 years and often longer. Most purpose-built emergency food products cost 5 to 10 times the calorie cost of quality fat sources. Coconut oil beats almost all of them on cost, shelf life, and versatility. Number 1. Ghee. Regular butter has a fatal weakness: water. Leave it out briefly and you're looking at a science experiment. Ghee solves that by simmering butter until the water and milk solids drop out, leaving mostly pure fat. Less water means fewer spoilage pathways, a higher smoke point, and dramatically extended shelf life without refrigeration. One storage study tracked ghee over 12 months and still reported low peroxide values, a sign of controlled oxidation. That is remarkable for a dairy-based fat product. Here's what makes this the number 1 pick. It combines the absolute best shelf-stable nutrition with the narrowing availability window that defines the best stockpile buys. Ghee lasts far longer than butter, tolerates room temperature storage, and takes the same space. It's also lactose leaner, so sensitive stomachs that can't handle butter often tolerate it without issue. Store it in a sealed jar away from heat and sunlight. Use a clean, dry spoon every time you open it. Moisture is the only real enemy. 1 jar in the pantry, 1 in rotation. It transforms plain rice, elevates beans, makes basic meals taste like someone actually cooked. And in the growing uncertainty around dairy supply chains, ghee is your insurance policy on fat. The one macronutrient almost every other pantry staple leaves completely out. You've just seen 15 foods that are quietly leaving shelves for good. The window is closing. Act now at today's prices, or pay double later. That's not prepping. That's just smart financial planning. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Drop a comment below. Which item are you grabbing first?